The uniqueness of VMS, and a significant benefit, is that each volunteer has their own dashboard where they can track the status and progress of their background clearance, make changes to their volunteer activities, and update their children's school and grade information. These and other features of the dashboard will be explained in the slides to follow. However, it should be noted that this unique feature significantly reduces the time an admin person needs to spend maintaining volunteer profiles, and volunteers like being involved. If you recall from an earlier slide, individuals entered their email address at the initial portal page. If the address is not already in the system, the assumption is that this is a new applicant and he or she needs to be on a pathway for completing an online application. Also at this portal page, if the email address entered is already in the system, the volunteer is recognized as having a profile and is therefore prompted to enter their password, or click on Forgot Password to be emailed a password reset procedure. Once entering the password, the volunteers land on their personal dashboard. Here they receive notices, track their clearance progress, view most recent changes, and from the left navigation bar, they can update many pieces of information without having to contact support staff. This volunteer dashboard is a very important component of VMS. Without it, the admin personnel workload would be considerably greater. Besides carrying out various background clearance tasks, volunteers are allowed to add schools and school activities to their profiles, and change their school volunteering from one school to another as their children change schools. And the volunteers like being engaged in the management of their school volunteerism. It should be noted, however, that any and all changes, additions, and deletions done by a volunteer creates a notification to the admin personnel so that verifications are done. For example, if a volunteer meets a health requirement by uploading a TB screening report, the admin personnel are notified so that the TB report is viewed, confirmed, and the volunteer's TB requirement is checked off and an expiration date established. At the dashboard, notice that there are two notices to the volunteer. Notifications are messages from the admin for a specific volunteer. When clicking on the notification box, the messages can be viewed until they are dismissed. The center area of the dashboard is reserved for a summary of the clearance requirements, and when clicked on, the My Requirements page is displayed, where completed requirements are shown in green and uncompleted in amber color. Clicking on each of the requirements will display instructions for completing the requirement task and provide the ability to download any necessary documents. In some cases, it is necessary to upload documents, such as a copy of a driver's license, or to update information such as references. It is important to note that only items required for this particular volunteer's clearance are presented on this page. For example, if the volunteer activity selected by the volunteer did not include driving, the driver's license tab would not be displayed, and the red button to the right for editing driver's license information would not be displayed. The first item we will look at is the welcome letter. Upon clicking on the Welcome Letter tab, the letter is viewed. This letter is simply a Word or PDF document that can be changed or updated at any time and is loaded into the system via the back office. Next, we will view the Fingerprint tab. Not every district or volunteer activity within a district requires fingerprinting. Some may use other background clearance sources such as IntelliCorp, Nexus Lexus, or others. The appropriate tab will always be displayed for selection. Upon clicking on this, detailed instructions for completing the task are displayed in the center, and to the left are download documents and links needed by the volunteer. Both downloads and instructions can be changed at any time from the back office. The instructions tell the volunteer to download and print the fingerprinting form and to use the Schedule Fingerprint Appointment to make their appointment. When clicking on the Schedule Appointment link, the volunteer is presented with available times open for a particular week. In this case, only Tuesdays and Thursdays are available. To view and select open times for future weeks, the volunteer will use the right arrow at the top of the screen. When clicking on an open time, the volunteer is moved to a sign-up sheet. At the bottom, not shown, is a Submit button. When clicked on, the volunteer receives a confirming email and the appointment is placed on the Fingerprint Appointment calendar. In some cases, volunteer activities will require training. From the back office, training locations and schedules can be set up, and the volunteer can sign up for a training as part of the clearance requirements by using the red Register for Training button on the right. When clicking on it, the schedule of available trainings is displayed. The volunteers can select the day, time, and location that best suits their schedule. When clicking on the registration button at the bottom, the volunteer is registered and a confirming email is sent to the volunteer and a notification email to the program admin person. In addition to tracking and managing clearance requirements, volunteers can add new volunteer activities to their profiles and deactivate those for which they will no longer be volunteering by clicking on the My Activities link on the navigation bar at the left. Upon clicking on My Activities, green displays all activities for which the volunteer is currently volunteering. Please note that there is a button toward the top on the left to display inactive schools for this volunteer. If selected, the volunteer can choose to display and reactivate former schools and activities. Also in the upper right corner is a red Add button. By clicking on it, the volunteer can add any project to their profile. If the newly added activity requires additional background clearing, the volunteer will be required to complete those tasks prior to being able to begin the new volunteering assignment. At times, volunteers will need to transfer their activities from one school to another, usually because they have a child or children who are changing schools, but there could be other reasons. In the case shown, this volunteer no longer wants to volunteer at DeJean Middle School. By clicking on the Transfer button, the volunteer can select another school. In this case, it is Thornhill High School. After clicking on Thornhill, the volunteer is moved to this screen showing the volunteer's child or children, the volunteer, and the current activities are being transferred to Thornhill. This volunteer has one child at DeJean, the school transferring from, and his name is checked, indicating he will be transferred to Thornhill. In this case, the volunteer's screen will no longer show DeJean as an active school. However, if there were other children listed at DeJean but not checked here, it would mean the volunteer will remain active at DeJean and will also have his or her profile copied to Thornhill. After clicking on the Transfer button, the screen shows Thornhill as an additional active school, and DeJean Middle has been removed because there are no other students remaining at DeJean related to this volunteer. Another important task the volunteers can perform is to log the hours they spend volunteering and enter any comments regarding their experience. At this screen, volunteers select the activity for which they are reporting on. They then enter the date, the volunteer hours, and any comments they wish to make. Program coordinators can view the volunteers' inputs and can contact them for clarifications or to provide support they may need. Here again is the volunteers' dashboard home page. From the navigation bar, they can engage in several other functions as shown. A couple of others that are significant are: 1. When clicking on My Children, volunteers who have children attending district schools can update the volunteer system that their child or children have changed schools and update the school grade if it has changed for any reason. And 2. The volunteers can view any documents that they have uploaded to the system. Volunteers, as a rule, enjoy that they can take an active role in managing their volunteering. School site coordinators can perform any of the functions that we just showed that volunteers can do. If the volunteers do not actively engage in the use of the system and perform these functions on their own, then the workload is on the admin personnel to do. It does reduce the admin support requirements significantly if the volunteers do some of the maintenance work. Thank you for taking the time to view this section of Be a Mentor's Volunteer Management System, or VMS. Be a Mentor, a nonprofit organization, is seeking partner relationships with school districts and other nonprofit organizations that are interested in increasing volunteerism with the highest degree of student safety and with great efficiency. School districts tend to increase volunteerism by fourfold with the implementation of VMS. One specific school district expected 2,000 volunteers over the first school year and had 20,000 volunteers register. To contact us or to request additional information, please click on the link provided on this page. It is our pleasure to serve you.